All right, guys, welcome back to Tar Heel 24/7. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. We're here for another edition of our Daily Drop podcast series. Going to talk a little bit of Carolina basketball today, in particular. Carolina's two recent European editions, I guess we can safely say on this one, with Luka Bagovec, and also we haven't talked about him on a podcast yet. Ivan Matlekovic, the High Point transfer that Carolina recently landed as well. We're going to talk a little bit about Luka's situation behind the scenes, kind of how it all played out and kind of what's going on with him, is obviously some of those reports came out earlier this week. And if you are on our message boards, AJ, you would have seen some stuff about that as well beforehand. And then we'll talk a little bit about
last week.
Yeah, no. Then we'll talk a little bit about
full day on the platform. We had all that on the board our first full day on the platform.
Yeah,
and then I get chastised by people like you about why wasn't it on the front page?
We might be changing the approach a little bit.
I was doing.
Yeah, we might be changing the approach.
We'll get to know that a little bit, but yeah. So we're going to go into all that and how it sort of played out and why the High Point transfer is there.
Yeah, because I think he's an intriguing addition, to say the least, trying to make a little bit of sense about what he might bring to the roster. So let's start with Luka. I might just go and call these guys first names. Luka and Ivan is how they're going to be known today, because I don't need to be trying to pronounce these last names for the next 15 minutes. I'm going to screw it up at some point. So we're just going to call him Luka to start out until
everybody else is. In fact, the question I answered, the thread was Luka.
Yeah. Oh, they know. I think he'll be known by that more often than not from Carolina fans. I don't blame you, because my pronunciation.
Just don't play that Luka song that was popular a long time. My name is Luka. God, that was terrible.
Every time he hits a three, Carolina's going to be.
I wanted to shove Ginsu knives in my ears when I heard that song.
I had to wear headphones to the games if they noise canceling headphones if they start doing that. But let's talk about the Luka situation, kind of what's going on there behind the scenes. Again, if you aren't on message boards, you would have known about this again the first day we launched, which is on August 1st. But it's an interesting one. Obviously, a guy that committed to Carolina a while back and is still not participating with the team. I know you've got some good insider information again that was on the boards, but just tell us a little bit about how that situation's been playing out and again, kind of what's going on there. Because again, I mean, it is, you want him on campus as soon as possible. And as of right now, he's still not there. So.
Well, he couldn't come until he got the student visa approved, and we didn't have all the information on that. Another outlet had some of that information as well. Our focus was more just when he's going to be here, because you knew he was going to get approved of that at some point, and obviously whenever he arrives is when he's approved. So that would go hand in hand. So my focus every time I was getting information about Luka was more on arrival. When do you expect him here? So what we reported last Friday, August 1st, hours after we took over, was that obviously they expected him to be here soon. I said within a week or a little bit more. Number two was that they believed the NCAA would clear him, but there was no timetable for it. So David also has intel on this, and he was told by one person, well, it could be next week. It could be Christmas. Mm-hmm. So they expect him to be cleared at some point. They don't know how long it's going to be. There are other guys out there. Some people think it's, the NCAA just hates Carolina. I think Illinois is still waiting for two players to get cleared.
The NCAA is not great with the timelines on clearing players.
They don't have as much to do anymore. It's not like they're policing programs anymore.
It's like they just choose not to do it.
They're staging championships, which is their stated mission and responsibility. And they're trying to clear all these European guys, and all these guys really just from all over the world that are coming over. The other thing that I asked hadn't previously been reported that we reported was about, yes, he's enrolled in classes, and he will be in classes, and he can participate in all team activities, but he cannot play in a game until he's cleared. So theoretically, let's say he's not cleared when they go to BYU in October for the exhibition game. He can play in that game because it's not an NCAA game. My understanding is he can play, but he wouldn't be able to play against Central Arkansas if he's not cleared. And again, I cannot give a specific timetable because they don't know. Nobody really knows NCAA timetables because it's not like the NCAA is, skywriting over Chapel Hill. Hey, we're about a day or two away, guys. They don't work that way. I know a whole lot about how the NCAA works because I'm very, very close to somebody that was knee deep in the Mark Emmert world of the NCAA, which is why we led the way by far in all the reporting about the NCAA investigations with UNC. And we were spot on with all that because of how well sourced I was with the NCAA. They simply don't communicate much to the schools. Mm. They're going to get a notice one day. Oh, he's been cleared by the NCAA. All expectation is that he will, and he'll be a part of this year's team at some point. Odds are probably sooner rather than later, again, because the NCAA doesn't have as much to do right now as it used to. But yes, he'll be in classes. He's going to be working out with the team. He'll be here very, very soon. In fact, by the time we run this podcast, he could already have arrived.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very possible. Yeah, it's interesting because we've seen countless examples in the past, maybe not in this new era where, like you said, the NCAA theoretically doesn't have as much to do as they used to. But I mean, how many times have you seen in the past where guys get cleared like the day before the first official practice starts? It's like little things like that it's just like, what are you doing it like that for? So it is frustrating that there is no like real timetable on that because it feels like something you could sit in a room for about 5 minutes and be like, yeah, he's good to go. But for whatever reason, they just don't get to it until they feel like getting to it, which is frustrating. So
it's interesting because we're not going to go all deep into how the NCAA operates, but when the NCAA investigates a program, like when they were investigating Carolina, and there were multiple investigations, a lot of people thought that was just one big long one. No, it ended in 2012. And then it picked back up when Carolina did the Weinstein report because for whatever reason, UNC brass thought it was a really good idea to open themselves up again, slice up and let all the bad stuff come out and let the NCAA and public consumption have at it. And that was a mistake. But regardless, the NCAA still had to approach it the same way it would anything else. And people serve on various committees where they're on the committees that are investigating these things. They make determinations. And the NCAA is comprised by all member institutions. It's not an extra outlet unconnected to any schools. They are a part of the schools. The schools are the NCAA. Mm-hmm. So the reason I'm saying this is they're not investigating nearly as many cases as they used to investigate because a lot of the stuff that they were investigating is now legal. The cash. I mean, everything is all about what are they giving kids? That's 90% of it. And they're not really looking at that stuff anymore. Now they're going to, I think, again, moving forward, if some of these recent things like house settlement, all those things become fully implemented, they will. So right now they should be stacking up all these cases for all athletes that are trying to get, that have their visas and are now need to be approved by the NCAA so they can actually participate. That's the thing. And that's where there needs to be a lot more pressure, public pressure. Because public pressure works with Charlie Baker is the head of the NCAA. He's the former governor of Massachusetts. Politicians do listen to people. So more public pressure, not just to get Luka cleared, but to get all these people cleared because school is starting around the country here very soon. These guys need to be working out with the teams and the coaches know I'm going to have him for every game. I'm going to have her for every game instead of the uncertainty. Get everybody on the same page. The NCAA loves to say they're in the business for the kids. Do what's best interest of the kids, right? Well, then it's in the best interest of Luka and everybody else. Get cleared and let them go forward without having to worry about what's hovering above.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Yeah, we'll see how it continues to develop again. He'll be cleared at some point. Just who knows when? It's just hard to say because of everything we've stated already. Let's move on to Ivan. High Point transfer. A guy that when the news first kind of broke, you kind of look at his stats, say, oh, okay, 6 foot, nearly a 7 foot guy from Croatia. Yeah, let's go look at his stats a little bit. And he's a High Point. And you're like, oh, he freshman year played in 5 games, averaged 6 minutes, 2.6 points per. His highs came against Carolina University, who I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of in my life. I'm not trying to disrespect. It's just these are things that this was my immediate reaction when I went and looked at.
That was my reaction too.
Yeah, and it's so it's a little bit perplexing, and I'm not trying to knock on him. I mean, I think obviously there is a little bit of belief that he continued to develop. He doesn't get picked up for a program like Carolina if that's the case. And a guy that's played for the Croatian national team growing up, I mean, he has good experience overseas in Europe, but in terms of what he did at High Point, you're kind of like, how does this translate to North Carolina? Because this is not a guy that saw a lot of action, played a lot of minutes, and even those minutes really produced that much as a freshman at High Point, who did have a good season, made it to the tournament, but still there's a massive jump between High Point and North Carolina. It's a pretty obvious statement right there. So like immediate reactions to this commitment, I'm just trying to figure out what it means, because I look at it and I say, you know, Carolina brought in Ty Claude last year, and it kind of you kind of makes sense. You're like, he's played in the league, he's got experience. You know, it makes sense to bring a guy like that in and just be a body and kind of a role player. And he comes in and he just really didn't do much. And you know, as the season went on, really never played for Carolina. And then you look at this and you're like, okay, you know, you're feeling you're the backcourt's getting a little bit better. You know, you're putting a little bit more bodies down there, but is it really adding much to your roster in terms of production? No. I mean, it really isn't. So when you look at the commitment, is he just a body coming in and kind of a project of like, all right, we'll bring someone like this in who has some nice intangibles. Maybe we can help with his development and help get him to that next level? Because I can't see any other reason or any other role that he would really fit for Carolina, especially in this upcoming season. I don't want to say it's a perplexing one. I was just, stats wise and kind of experience wise, you're like, I mean, I guess he's just a body. I don't really know what more he would really be as of right now, at least.
Well, you can't teach 7 feet, and height doesn't slump. Like the height's the height. That will always be the case. With him, let me go over to football for a second and try to draw a little bit of a correlation. Bill Belichick was talking about roster management, roster development last week, and even acknowledged they ran guys out in the spring. And one of the questions about the NCAA allowing schools now to go from 85 to 105 football scholarships, what's going to happen to all these preferred walk-ons? North Carolina has 3 walk-ons in the NFL right now, which is wild, but it does. So what's going to happen to those walk-ons, the preferred walk-ons? Well, now they get scholarships. So when you look at Ivan, let's say Ivan would have been in a situation where he can get into UNC as a regular student. I'm not saying he wasn't. Family could afford to pay for him to go to UNC as a preferred walk-on, because preferred walk-ons are not on scholarship. And let's say Carolina recruited him as a preferred walk-on. What would people have thought if there was no High Point in between there? Oh, this guy's a project. Boy, 7 feet makes a lot of sense. Bring him in, let him work for a while, see what he becomes. For him, he's the same basketball player entering High Point as he would have been entering Carolina last year as a preferred walk-on. So he knows his game has a long way to go. You don't go to High Point at 7 feet and play however many minutes it was and know you're not without knowing you're a project. So the reason for him it makes sense to come to North Carolina is because, wow, why wouldn't I go to North Carolina? Everybody gets NIL. He's going to get more there than he will at High Point for sure. I know what the minimum number is at Carolina, at least before they brought him in. I have no confirmation on what he's getting, but I know like what Zayden High's getting, which is the low end, right? So if he's getting that, it's a no-brainer, obviously. It's also a no-brainer from a basketball standpoint because look at the program. So if you're the program, you look at a guy and say, okay, he's got some international experience. He didn't play much at High Point, but he only played in 5 games, so the year doesn't count against him. So you could look at him and say, look, let's have a long-term program view of the guy, sort of the way it used to be. And maybe he's someone that understands, A, with the NIL money, B, pretty cool place to go to school, C, the academics of the school, D, the prestige of the program and the platform it's on, that if your game has to improve and you're 4 years of being away from being whatever you're going to be, you're that way whether you leave and go play for some other school or not, might as well stay there and get it done. I can envision this being, as long as the current regime stays in place, a 4-year project. So I think of guys, and we talked about it, we mentioned it, something about, somebody got on us about the height thing, about all these guys they developed. Matt Winstrom played in the NBA a little bit. Kevin Salvadori came in redshirted, was not highly touted at all, ended up playing in the NBA, was a really solid player for the Tar Heels on the 93 National Championship team. And then Serge Wicker. Serge Wicker was a McDonald's All-America, which was kind of hard to understand. I saw him play in a McDonald's game in D.C. It didn't look like he was ready, but height was looked at differently then than it is now. So this guy comes in, all those dudes developed when they were there. So he comes in. Maybe if this staff can develop him by his second year in Carolina, maybe he's an 8-minute guy. Maybe his third year at Carolina, he's a 14-minute guy. Maybe by his last year at Carolina, or fourth year at Carolina, maybe he's a starter. Who knows? Maybe they see something. I don't know if he has a soccer background or not, but maybe they look at it and say, look, height doesn't slump. You can't teach height. There's some things about this kid. He loves the game. I mean, he went to High Point, so he loves the game. He recognizes the opportunity of being here in the States, and it's something to work with. They brought in some projects before. It didn't work out. One was back at UAB, and he's not playing. It was Hubert's first commitment. He didn't really play much there last year. He wasn't very good. Maybe they view this as that. And the other thing I'm going to throw in there in a very long-winded answer is this. As it stands or as it stood, your two bigs who were banging with Henry Vasar, and the odd time that Caleb Wilson's down there at the 5, which could happen on occasion, it's Zayden High and James Brown. I would rather have someone else get a lot of those reps banging against the big, sort of being a scout team big, so High and Brown can get non-scout team reps.
Yeah.
And they could bang too, because they're going to have to be up to snuff as much as possible, because Vasar is going to get in foul trouble. And Hubert, Dave and I did a podcast talking about this last week. Hubert's either going to have to move like a Caleb Wilson over to the 5 for a period of time, or trust James Brown and Zayden High. And based on what we've seen from High and Brown previously, I don't think that trust would be there based on what we've seen. Now, they should be a lot better now, but how much better? So you want their reps to not be scout team reps. You want their reps to be preparation reps. So I think that's the other reason that they brought him in. And I think it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The only thing that concerns me is you're bringing in a project player to a staff that, if we've talked about a lot, and I'm not trying to knock on Hubert or anything, it's just the facts of I think what we've seen in his tenure so far, that isn't necessarily known for developing talent very well. A lot of Hubert's best players and most productive players have been guys like Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan, who are ready-made guys, Brady Manick to an extent, or guys that had already been in the program for a couple of years. And I'm not taking any credit away from the development that RJ and Armando continued to have at Carolina, but they weren't guys who came in as these project true freshmen kind of players like this guy will essentially be. So that was another reason I kind of questioned it, because I'm like, this is a major project guy, and you're kind of bringing him to a situation where I haven't seen a lot of proof in the pudding. This staff is great at developing project guys like this. So, but I also think you bring up good points with the scout team thing, and and what do you really maybe have to lose if you got a roster spot open? You can bring a guy like this in who's not going to cost you much money and kind of see what you can do. I just personally, again, not trying to be a major knock on the staff, this is just facts and what we've seen. I just personally don't have a lot of faith, based on the sample size we've seen, that this guy's going to come in and in 2 seasons, if he's still here, is just going to be a really productive starter or role player. I haven't seen enough of that from this staff yet to have a lot of confidence in that, if you know what I mean. I think that's an entirely valid take, but I'm gonna look at it a little bit differently, just for the sake of discussion and kind of open up this dialogue. And I'd love to know what people think about this. Let's look at a project in college basketball as being art. So you either have a blank canvas, so you can, and it's a really nice canvas, and you've got nice, art tools to work. My daughter does a lot of art. I don't really know what the terminology is, right? Yeah, but you have something that maybe you can really make something out of this. It's possible. It's going to take a while. You got a big canvas, and let's say the task is to fill the canvas. There's a lot of stuff you got to do. It's a lot of filling in, a lot of foundational type stuff. Or you've got over here, you have to make this art project out of some stuff that's maybe fractured. You've got a couple of left corner pieces, but no right corner pieces, and you can't flip it and make it a right corner piece if you want to build a frame for a piece of art or a drawing or something like that. It's different pieces. Guys that come to you that have been playing in the States, playing high school, AAU, and all these things, they come to you already with a shape and form.
And sometimes you have to break them down. Donald Williams came in to Dean Smith's program. Dean put him at the point his freshman year. They broke down a shot, changed it, and he had to at least learn how to play at the top. And guess who got the ball in shot clock situations a lot the next 3 years? It was Donald Williams, because of what he learned that year being on top of the ball, and his shot changed a little bit. You could do that back then. It's a little harder to do now, but the point is they had to fix something that was there. With Ivan, maybe they look at him as a blank canvas. Say, you know what? It's not going to cost a whole lot. We've got roster spots. It's not like he's going to take time. Like, we have to play him some. So we're going to keep Vesar on the bench for 5 minutes to make sure Ivan gets in. Ivan is a project, a slow play project where they got this big blank canvas, and let's see what kind of art we can create with the tools that we have.
You don't have a lot to lose with it, really.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. To me, yeah, that's why I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides. There's no expectation. Ivan is not going to keep them from being the kind of team they can be this year. He's not going to prevent that at all, because he's not going to be asked to be a part of that on court in games. But maybe he is good at being a scout team guy. Maybe Caleb Wilson in practice, going back up against a 7-footer who's pretty physical and an older guy, maybe that helps him learn how to play with learn how to use his hip better in practice, learn how to go up and under a big instead of just turning and scoring like he's been able to do for his whole high school life and a lot of times in AAU. Maybe helps in those areas. But I don't think it hurts to have him there. It's not like you're using a roster spot where you chose him over some guy that could come in and help you some. I don't look at it like that at all. It's a why not situation for all parties.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. And you talk about I've harped on this before in previous podcasts and different seasons, but you're talking about the highest level, Carolina trying to compete at the highest level and win national championships and compete for ACC titles. That's the highest level of college basketball. And when it comes to high level sport, marginal gains, very small marginal gains can make that difference. Bringing in a guy like this who, again, like you said, can go up against a Caleb Wilson, can go bang with the Vesar and also allow guys like Zayden High and James Brown to get real reps instead of kind of just these practice scout team reps. Those are those little marginal games that might only make a 1%, 2%, 3% difference, but can be the difference in you winning basketball games late or taking that next step as a program. So I completely understand. It does make sense from that perspective why you would bring him in. Again, I think you don't really have much to lose if you're Carolina. Like I said, I brought up the development side because I look at him as a major project that needs to be developed, and I just haven't seen the evidence that this staff is necessarily capable of doing that. I hope I'm proven wrong in that situation because that would be better for Carolina in the long run. But again, I can only judge based on what I've seen so far, and there's just not a lot of evidence to suggest that's a strong suit of this staff right now. So
let me add one more thing to it. And when you look at Brown and High, like, nobody really knows what to expect from them. Because last time we saw Zayden High, he was a live wire on the court. He was a body, played with a lot of energy, but man, there were a lot of skills that we didn't see.
They're both wild cards. You don't really know.
When you look at James Brown, I thought James Brown had better hands around the basket than I expected coming in. Scouting, he was a little bit better in that area than what the scouting report said. But there wasn't much else he could do other than just be a body out there. One of the two of them, you would think theoretically, has to be the primary backup. But if one of them is always playing the scout big man, it's going to take longer for Hubert and his staff to really gauge which guy wins that battle, so to speak. Let's say it's like in football. You got your starter, but who's battling for QB2? QB2 is really important because in one snap, they can be QB1. So which one of these guys is going to be the first big off the bench for Vesar? They must find that guy. They must identify him and have it be pretty clear cut, in my opinion, because you don't really want to have to slide Caleb Wilson down there. And you're not going to slide Stevenson down there. So if you want to avoid Wilson going down there, and we all know how that could affect what the chirpers are going to say, you've got to have an absolute backup big. So those two can duke it out and see who really wins that job and who's the best guy to replace Vesar. That's my take on it. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it, but I think it's pretty simple. And knowing how these things work, I think that's probably what this allows them to do. Did they bring him in for that specific reason? Who knows? We'll ask Hubert about it whenever we get a chance to talk to him. Hadn't had a chance this summer. Hubert should talk to the media in the summer. He didn't. The guys down the road did. They had an open practice, all that kind of stuff. But hey, we'll get a chance in time to ask Hubert about that. And it'll be very interesting what he says.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think about the Luka situation and the Ivan situation. What do you think kind of player he can be for Carolina? Do you agree with kind of our viewpoint on it? Or do you think maybe, he can be developed and this staff can develop him into a big time player down the road? And I think all arguments are valid here. So love to hear from you guys as we always do. Make sure you go on and head on over to our website to tarheel247.com. Links in the description below. We got a 75% off promo. Shame on me for not mentioning in the beginning. I have a graphic popping up as well that'll show you. Links in the description. That link will take you right to the sign up page where you can get a 75% off a 1-year premium subscription on our website. Amazing message boards right now. Amazing community we've got over there already. And we have such a stronger staff than we had at TarHeelIllustrated.com. We did great job over there, did great work over there. But this staff, as AJ's alluded to, and we've talked about before, so much stronger, so much more well-rounded. And I'm just extremely excited to be in this new chapter that we're in right now. It's been great so far. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Deeper. We're just in a much better situation right now. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, I know. We keep saying that word. I think I said it 70 times on our announcement podcast. I was like, God, I got to do a better job.
Hey, when I say that, since I mentioned the Luka thing in the song earlier, I have to really just annoy the hell out of people and discuss them with the Saved by the Bell episode. I'm so excited. When what's her face was taking like Dexatrim or something to stay awake and cram for a test. Why did that pop into my head?
I don't know. You got a lot of you got a lot of good TV show references. That between like Seinfeld and that kind of, you know what I'm saying?
I'm doing it. Well, right now I'm doing it because I know that someone's going to comment. Why aren't you guys talking about basketball? You're talking about Saved by the Bell. Well, we already finished talking about basketball.
We're having fun now. We can talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about now.
Some people like it. Some people don't. Whatever. We already finished the basketball stuff.
Yeah,
What's her name? What's her name on the show? I forgot.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen Saved by the Bell.
She was the one that did the Showgirls movie that bombed and pretty much ruined her career.
I did have I had a T-shirt growing up. I think I got it at Target back in high school. I thought it was cool that had the main girl from that show on it. I can't remember her name. Yeah, I think so. I believe that's her.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen rocked.
I had a picture on the front of her. I thought I was cool for wearing that. I was kind of scared to wear it to school though because I didn't know if it was appropriate or not. I don't think I ever did probably.
You would have been given the business by the fellas.
Yeah, something would have happened there. I think I probably would have got in trouble at the old Wake Forest High School. But yeah, good reference. We could sit in here and talk about anything we wanted to for the next 30 minutes, but I'm going to not allow us to do that because I'm going to go ahead and wrap this podcast up now. Again, I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. We appreciate you guys watching. As always, make sure you do it. Like, share, subscribe. Head on over to our new website. Sign up, 75% off. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks.